our view is not 10 years, it may not even be 5 years, is that mental AI, right? So that's Perplexity, GPT, Gemini, whatever, it will be capable of replacing a very large chunk of property management services, mental AI. And our view also is in the next 3 to 5 years, physical AI, particularly in the form of humanoid robots. For example, if you drive a Tesla 80 miles, it can recognize a deer. How hard is it to have a humanoid robot walk around, for example, my 13 building complex in South Tampa and pick up garbage or cut a lawn? It's not hard. So we believe that the combination of mental AI and physical AI will essentially make property management services, like a vast majority of it, much more efficient.
Hi, I'm Adam Gower, founder of GowerCrowd.com, where we help real estate syndicators find more investors. Welcome to the Easy Win AI Real Estate Show, exploring AI's impact on the real estate industry. Each episode offers practical tools, competitive AI strategies, and expert insights. For essential news and updates, visit easywin.ai and sign up for our free newsletter with actionable how-tos like how I added hours to my day by creating this clone of me you're watching and listening to right now. easywin.ai, the only newsletter you need on real estate and AI. All right, back to the real me. My guest today is San Ng, who is co-founder and chairman of a company called HappiNest, and also is president of Skytian Capital. San is a renaissance man. I'm not sure if people would appreciate, I hope you don't mind me calling you that. He is a man of many colors and invests in AI startups, has a very interesting track record, and is very knowledgeable about how to use AI to create content in an extremely efficient way and to push it out extremely efficiently to build his businesses. That's what you're going to be learning about today from him. Although it's not entirely real estate related, the techniques that he uses and the tactics that he uses are immediately applicable to anybody in the real estate industry. So you're going to enjoy learning from San today. If you've not already signed up to the easywin.ai newsletter, please go ahead and do that. Just go to easywin.ai and sign up to our newsletter there. You'll get notification of our podcasts, updated news on what's going on in the real estate world through the lens of AI, as well as educational materials that will give you easy wins, ways to use AI super efficiently, super quickly, that will dramatically improve your productivity. All right, let's get to my conversation now with San Ng. He is a fascinating fellow. You're going to love our chat. Here he is. San, super good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. You've got a lot of interesting graphics there behind you, including a QR code. I should have a go at trying to click on that, see what happens. But would you mind starting at the very top? I know we're going to get to HappiNest eventually, but at the very top, please, who are you? Tell me your background. We've just covered some ground. We've obviously got some mutual friends in the industry, but what is your background and who is Skytian Capital? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, Skytian. Well, Adam, thank you for having me here, and we do have some mutual friends. It's a small world, and I'm really happy we reach out to you because I'm a big fan of your podcast and have learned quite a bit from it, and also now in partnership with one of your other guests, Journey. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I call myself an investorpreneur. Started as an entrepreneur when I was in my younger days, starting technology as well as consumer companies, and in more recent decades, have been in the investment space using the Skytian Capital platform, which is my platform. Tian, you've been in Asia. Tian is basically sky in Chinese, so sky is bridging of cultures. And more recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, have been more focused on the multifamily states in the USA.
In
So
what
I
way?
still do,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
Although I still do a couple of technology deals a year as well. Yeah.
In what way have you been involved in multifamily, Sam?
Yeah. So when COVID hit, I was living in Toronto and it was shut down. Then I drove my car down to New York. New York was shut down. And then I couldn't fly. So I ended up driving across the country. Over the next couple of years, really literally put in about 35,000 miles from Toronto, New York, all the way down every nitty gritty piece of Florida, Texas, and back. And started learning different asset classes and decided that we wanted to deploy in the value add multifamily. So these are mostly B and Cs, and ended up over the last 4 or 5 years, GP sponsor about 10 assets, close to about 100 million in acquisitions, and then also LP passively invested with friends that I met over the years in another couple thousand doors, primarily in Texas.
And so you mentioned that you invested in Journey.
Oh no, I did not
J
invest in Journey. We're actually using Journey for one of our projects, and so far it's been only a few weeks, but so far we like what we see. So
All right. So,
we learned about Journey through your podcast. So thank you for that.
you're more than welcome. Yeah. Well, I should be full disclosure. I did invest in them.
Oh, fantastic,
When I
fantastic, good for
interviewed, I
you.
thought, oh my goodness, that's really cool. So I made a little investment. They were raising some money at the time. And so you also are writing a book, aren't you? Well, you've written a couple of books, or at least you've written one book and you got another one in process. Tell me about the first one, and then let's talk about GenFi because it's very cool. Not just the topic, but the way you're writing that, because that is going to involve AI. I'm very interested in that.
Thank you, thank you. So I'm actually working on my third book. The first book was a biography, semi-autobiography I wrote with my dad about his life, and it's published, but only made available to the Ing family. It's bilingual Chinese English, and it really talks about my family's journey to America. We have a huge family here in the States. The second book is what you see in the background. It's called The 10 Commandments of Investing,
Mm-hmm.
and rewrote that during COVID with my daughter Ia. I'm not sure if you can see it, and my nephew Timmy. Timmy was a senior at Columbia at the time, and my daughter was a senior in high school. Um, we got bored, we were locked up, and we basically wrote and published this book. And I have been force feeding my kids. I have three daughters; they're now all in college. Uh, Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week and Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Hmm.
which, if you think about Ferris, is really about, hey, don't work by the hour, right? Time is precious. Really learn to leverage resources so that you're not bound by an hourly wage.
Hmm.
And Kiyosaki has other themes to it, and so those were quite impactful for me and for my kids. But we didn't find a user-friendly book that really talks about investment strategies. So 10 Commandments was really if you think of the Bible, it's really the 10 Commandments of the world's greatest investment wizards. And so I wrote this over quite a few years. And when we tried to publish it, my daughter, Ia, and my nephew, Timmy, said this will never sell because it was so thick and technical. So we spent the COVID years making it kind of funny and storyized. And we published it. And again, it did quite well. We hit obviously Amazon, but USA as well as Wall Street Journal bestsellers.
Did you?
And then from there, yeah.
Those are real credits, actually. Not an Amazon #1. Forget that. You buy 10 books and you're #1. 10 of your own books, you're #1 for 5 minutes.
Exactly. It could be number one something.
Real
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as part of educating myself and my daughters, we said, you know what? We have so much content from research of the first book and then the sequel that we're writing. Then we created this website called GenFi, which stands for Generational Financial Independence, not retire early. We don't believe that. That's the FIRE movement. Is financial independence reach excellence.
Hmm.
So the idea is GenFire is to help parents think about the next generation, teach the kids financial literacy, teach the kids and themselves smart investing, so that they can then have the freedom to do whatever they want to do. And so that's the band. And so we spent a couple of years doing that. We're now interview number 6 of 100 interviews that we'll do. And then those interviews, the content and insight would then be used for the sequel, which will be called 10 Commandments to Generational Wealth, which deals with more asset classes and tactics, not just principles. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It certainly does. And this is actually very cool. So let's unwrap it a little bit, because the way that you are writing this next book is, even though it's not directly a real estate book, and this show is all about real estate and AI, it is exactly the way we recommend people write their content, right? So describe, what is the process? You said you paused because of VAs and too much time, but so what's the pause?
Yeah.
And then how are you changing that? Yeah, using AI.
Yeah. So I mean, we're getting smarter. This is my 3rd book. So for the 10 Commandments of Investing, we interview maybe 40 like investment wizards. For example, Kathy Shi, you might have heard from Today Capital in China, cover of Forbes, voted #1 VC in China. John Ruffalo, who invested in Hopper and some of the, and we have 4 or 5 billionaires in that. So we did these one-hour interviews, and they're in a Gen 5 YouTube, and nobody watches it. The content went to the book. Right. For the next 100 interviews, for example, my last interview I did was with Tim Draper, the venture capitalist. He gave me 1 hour. I need to honor that. So what I told Tim was, listen, we have this platform to teach folks. If you give me 1 hour, we will use AI to slice and dice probably 50 to 100 short form videos. We'll use AI, prompting it correctly, to translate into 5 languages. And then we'll use AI to then distribute this over the next probably 18 months across multiple social media platforms. And then we'll use AI to track the shares and likes and insights. Then we do this with 100 famous people. Tim has 250,000 followers alone on X, right? If we do this over, let's say with 100 interviews, let's say an average of 50 short forms, over 5 different languages, let's say 10 social channels, then the idea is that, 1, we have honored the people that have given me 1 hour of the time by sharing the insights that across the globe, right? But by the time we're done with the 100 interviews, we would know which insights actually have the most resonance with the audience. Then we will then summarize that, and a chunk of that content, the most insightful content, the most shared content, will then be much more paid attention to for the 2nd book.
Fascinating.
And the idea is, by the time we're done with this in 12, 18 months, our goal is, because we have spread this so far and wide, we are targeting a New York Times bestseller.
So how are you using AI? So you describe using AI. It's a very, very broad statement. Exactly. So get into the weeds a little. Tell me how you're doing it.
Yeah. So what I just described is now a flagship product for a company that actually came out of part of GenFi, also part of my real estate projects. It's now called HappiNest, which is really an AI. It's an AI company that aims to use technology to digitize and make much more productive property management services. So we're selling the software to property management companies to make them more efficient. So what I just described to you is the first of a 3-product suite called Revenue Rocket. It's Brand Booster, which is what we just talked about, SalesWiz, and Smart Home. Okay, so Brand Booster, what I just described to you for GenFire, I couldn't afford to hire an agency to do those posts, right? It's $3,000, $6,000 to do a couple of posts. So for GenFire, and for one of my assets in Florida, it's 50 units. It's a fairly small asset. We also were doing social media posts. It was a branded asset. And so instead of hiring an agency, I ended up hiring 2 virtual assistants full time for about 2 years. And they worked out to be about 2,000 plus bonus, about 3,000 a month. And they were working on the social post. And besides that cost, which is a lot cheaper than using digital here, agency here, it's still a lot of time, 4 or 5 hours of my time each month for GenFire and for the brand called Satoshi Hideout, the apartment community. So over time, we started using AI, for example, to slice and dice content. One example is Opus. So if I did, for example, this interview, let's say is a 30-minute interview, or my 1 hour interview with Tim Draper, if you prompt it correctly with the template, Opus could slice this interview or the Tim Draper interview to 100 short forms. And if you prompt it correctly with the template, it will then recognize to a pretty good degree of accuracy which of those short form videos would have resonance with my audience, right? So that's a third. So we started using Opus for doing long to short videos. And so if you go to GenFi, Instagram, whatever it is, the content that's coming out are actually auto-generated by AI.
So does Opus
as an example?
Does Opus also push it out on social media, Sam?
So Opus is purely what we call L2S, long to short tool.
Okay.
If you go to Satoshi Hideout, the apartment community, we don't have long form videos in the apartment community, but we do. We basically created what we call a brand dossier for that brand, and the brand dossier would, in let's say in an apartment community, would explain what the brand is, who the target audience is, the amenities, the swimming pool, the local area, blah blah blah, who the target audience is. So we create AI now creates or help create a brand dossier. It only takes a couple hours, maybe an hour or two, depending. And then we have a tool that creates an image depends on the product that you want, right? So you would then create. For now, we have two posts a day on post that would resonate and would target my audience. Then the next stage is we're using a tracking tool. Oh, sorry. Then so what we do is, let's say for the month of September, I want 2 posts a day. HappiNest would maybe give me 70 for the month. I would approve 60. Then the HappiNest team, using certain technology, would then post this, and it's auto-generated, auto-tracked. So you might post 4 o'clock for TikTok, 4:15 for Facebook, 5 o'clock for something else for Insta. And then the idea is then it would track the post, right? And then the last piece of the puzzle is we would then take, let's say, the 60 posts for the month of September, and we may do a weekly newsletter based on the 5 or 6 posts that have the most resonance. So it's super nice. It's ideation, brand dossier, content creation, distribution, tracking to a newsletter.
Phenomenal. And
then there's also a CTA, call to action, potentially to your website or to your newsletter, whatever it is. Yeah.
And so what is the objective of doing that inside HappiNest? Is this for HappiNest clients? This is designed to attract tenants, or is it for you to attract investors? Or what is the objective? Yeah.
So it depends. So HappiNest's clients are property management companies. Okay, what we call PMCs, and we're targeting property management companies of multifamily residentials. So in the U.S., there's 50 million residential units from our count. 20 million are managed by 326,000 PMC. The 30 million are self-managed by 10 million owners. Okay, on average 3 units, so it's 50 million. The 20 million that are professionally managed, they charge between 8 to 12% management fees. That adds up to $100 billion of income for the PMCs. It's a $100 billion market. So you could say it's about 200 billion if the self-managed ones are added into at some point. We are selling to the mid-tier PMCs that service 500 to 5,000 doors of multifamily residences. And these PMCs have scale, but they're not big enough to have their own AI team. And so Revenues Rocket, the primary objective is to tech enable the PMCs to sell stuff better and faster. So whether it's selling a condo or leasing. So Brand Booster is basically taking an asset or taking the properly managed brand and automating the creation of a lot of content and brand generation so that you bombard with decent quality content every day. And what the algorithms would do is if you do one post a day, nobody cares. But if you consistently do 1 or 2 posts a day across the media, eventually you will come up higher and higher. So let's say an investor wants to invest in Tampa. One of our clients is a prop PMC called Dean & DeWitt. They're using Brand Booster to consistently do posts so that it would show up. If an investor says, I want to buy properties, they would then engage Dean & DeWitt, which does leasing, buy, sell, as property management. Dean & DeWitt will also use Brand Booster if, for example, they're managing, let's say, a 30-unit branded apartment building, and let's say it has 10 leases for rental. We would use Brand Booster to generate branding for that apartment community, which then complements the ads that they put in the internet listing sites like Zillow. Does that make sense? So we're not generating all the lead because Zillow is too powerful, but Brand Booster would complement the brand. So for example, maybe a husband and wife is looking for a 2-bedroom in Manhattan. You do the criteria and maybe 12 show up in the front page. Well, they don't have time to see 12. A lot of times, one of them, often the wife or one of the spouses, would go to Insta and say, oh, if the asset pops up in Insta with a nice friendly dog, a nice pool, then out of the 12, you might be the 5 that get a tour. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Marketing, this kind of marketing, again, is something that we do all the time. There is no silver bullet. You have to use multiple different channels all at the same time. So Brand Booster is part of HappiNest, is it? Is that a brand?
HappiNest says we're developing multiple products. The ones that's launched now with paying customers and a very large waiting list, it's a suite called Revenues Rocket. Brand Booster is, we just described, which is an AI brand creation content tool. Then the idea is, we actually have paying customers that are paying 4 figures per month. But our goal, this is crazy, is to make this completely PLG, product-led growth, self-serve automation. Our goal over the next couple of months is to get that into $100 a month.
And that's a SaaS, that would be a SaaS product.
It would be, let's say you're the owner or the property manager of ABC apartment community in Chattanooga. You would come in and you would spend a bit of time answering certain questions, import a logo, the brand, and that creates a brand dossier. And then our Brand Booster would then create the content for you. And the basic $100 a month, which is currently not $100 a month, people are paying a lot more than that, would then give you, let's say, 1 post a day. But if you wanted something fancier, like an avatar, or if you wanted 3 posts a day in 5 languages, we would charge you more. But what we're going to sell eventually in the PLG self-serve model, the goal is we want to be 1/10 to 1/50th the price, but more output versus traditional marketing agency. And we're almost there. It's a little crazy, but that it actually is. If you go to Genfire, if you go to satoshihara.com, that's what you're seeing. It's real content that's being produced every single day. The second piece of Revenues Rocket is called SalesWiz. And by then, we hopefully, through Brand Booster, have earned your trust. There's no need to connect to your property management system. But you're now spending $3,000 a month on ILSs, Zillow, apartmentlist.com. Let me ask you, Adam, if you own an apartment community and you get 1,000 leads a week, is your property manager or your call center able to get to all those leads?
No, of course not. Right.
Of course not, right? So the idea of SalesWiz is basically we've now created an AI that no matter what the ILS or what channel, no matter the communication channel, whether it's a text, phone call, email, WhatsApp, our AI scrapes the relevant contact, and we have a unified dashboard with all the channels comes through SalesWiz, and our bot basically qualifies the leads, whether it's a leasing or a buy sell of a condo. And obviously, we leverage the brand dossier from Brand Booster, and then we would then train it a bit more. And the idea is that if 1,000 leads came in this week, we provide 24/7 qualification of the leads. And let's say 70% of the leads are satisfactorily answered 24/7 in multiple languages by SalesWiz. We have a 7-day virtual assistance program as well, where it escalates to the VAs, live VAs, to take it to 90%. And then the 10% that are qualified to do a tour either then fill out the form and their schedule, and we get notified of live agents, or if they're a bit more complex, they would then be bounced to the live person on site. So this is also live.
All right, so I got to ask you a question.
So it's a lot going on.
It is a lot going on. So let me ask you this. What kind of, and I'm taking, when I look away from you, it's only because I'm taking notes and organizing my questions. So don't be don't think I'm distracted. So one of the biggest challenges is, as far as I saw this on LinkedIn, somebody was commenting, people are set in their ways. The old way of doing it, right? Property management, we've done it this way. We've always done it this way. What kind of resistance do you find in the property management industry to taking on this kind of super advanced, incredibly efficient tech?
Not much. Not much. So we started using Satoshi, which is an asset that I'm an owner of. So Satoshi, the 50 units, Satoshi is the guinea pig. So we're testing everything, made a lot of mistakes. We're now onboarding this month a developer slash they own their own property management. It's about $1 billion AUM out of California. And they're using Brand Booster as well as SalesWiz to sell 35 condos that are coming up this month. And we're working with Keller Williams, the agent, to produce the content for the brand dossier, as well as to train the SalesWiz bot. So we're onboarding them. Then we are also onboarding a company called Dean & DeWitt, which is the largest PMC in St. Pete, Florida, about 1,200 units. Dean & DeWitt actually was one of my PMCs for one of my assets. And when they heard what we were doing, they are now a client and also an investor.
Interesting.
So in HappiNest.
In HappiNest.
So similarly, we're onboarding them. We're creating the brand dossier as we speak, and we're going to start producing content for the brand Dean & DeWitt, so that they can then now attract more investors to hire them to buy apartments or buildings, properties in Tampa. And then obviously that would then lead to property management services. And then we're also onboarding them on SalesWiz so that they can, Justin Dean, the owner of Dean & DeWitt, says they can't hire the right people. And they can't often get leasing people to show up on the weekend or holidays. So they're using the SalesWiz to complement the leasing team. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it really it's a complement, and obviously in the case of the client in LA, it's a company called Pacific Premier Partners. They build and develop houses and condos, hotels, and again they have a 35-unit luxury hotel coming up, and so we're partnering with Keller Williams, and the Brand Booster, the dossier, is partially to market the PPP, the client's amazing legacy and track record, and then partially to market those 35 units for sale.
So there's a constant. What's the timing of that, Sam? It'd be really interesting to see how that case study.
Both clients are being onboarded now, so they should be up in one form or the other in this month. We're literally onboarding right now. Contracts are signed. These are the real clients. We also have another dozen owners, syndicators that own 4-figure doors. We're not touching anybody with less than 4-figure doors on the waiting list. And we have one overseas property management company in Asia on the waiting list. That one PMC alone is managing 100,000 doors.
Oh my goodness.
So we have no issues with demand. We have issues with really just making sure the
Fulfilling it. So
product
let's
works.
talk about that in a second. Before we do though, uh, translations. So how are you doing the translations? We've been doing some translation. I love it. How are you doing the translation? Using AI, obviously, but how are you doing it?
Um, I wish she had our CTOs here. We version one of the product, we were working off a GPT-4 platform. I believe version two, which is coming up,
Mm.
we are using. It's kind of like Perplexity. It's like a Meta, it uses the best of different ones
Uh,
on the back end. Yeah.
and
So I
but it's
actually don't know
audio.
technically.
It's audio translations, is it? Or is it just written translation?
So currently, our SalesWiz, which is the agent, the qualification agent, does text, does email, does
Ah, I
WhatsApp.
see.
We don't have voice yet, although we can do voice. Voice is, as you know, a bit expensive from a token standpoint, right? And so we are launching voice, but we're waiting for a bit more of volume to do voice. Yeah. Is that right? So,
Yes, yeah.
so for
We've
example, if you call the client's hotline, either the client or our VAs pick up if it's voice.
mm.
If they're busy, then the AI text message would take over. But in the next 2, 3 months, when we have a bit more funding and volume, we will add the voice, so the AI actually picks up the voice.
Okay, so I'm jumping around a bit. Forgive me for doing that. I'm just interested in the translations because that's uh, we've been doing some AI translation stuff, and it is mind blowing. We're actually creating a clone of one of our clients. So we produce a lot of video content
Yeah.
for our clients who want to raise capital. So they can talk about their investment thesis and their view of the world, and we preemptively try and answer every investor's question. But we create videos as well as articles. We have one
Sure.
client who is just does not like being on video, so we're cloning him completely. So we're going to create some clones, but we do some
So it would be an avatar as well as a voice
avatar.
avatar.
If you
So
won't know
both a
it's
visual avatar.
yeah, you won't know it's not him.
Yeah.
Well, you will because it'd be the same exact setup for every single video, but basically
Gotcha.
clones. And
So
his
you,
voice.
in that respect, you're ahead of us in terms of social media posts for brand booster. For example, we're using Opus for the long to short
Mm.
product, right? And if we wanted to subtitle an English conversation like this into Chinese or Spanish, it's not an issue, right? But we are also testing the Chinese versions of Sora because Sora is not up yet.
Mm.
And then we're going to have a text to video product for brand booster. So for example, uh, if the client doesn't have enough videos and doesn't want to do text to image, we would then eventually offer a text to video product.
Mm.
The products that we've tested so far haven't been the quality that we wanted, but we think it's really a 3 month thing.
Yeah.
Then in the SalesWiz side, in terms of the agent talking, I mean, I'm sure you use Elise AI, you use Leah. The quality is there, but it really is a matter of volume and the cost, and we're just not big enough yet. So we will eventually have the voice agent talking on top of the SMS, WhatsApp, Facebook, what email, whatever it is, right? So I think it's less a technical thing than more of a volume and cost consideration.
Mm. Yeah. But also the technical, I mean, Sam, the technical stuff is improving just the most incredible
Yeah,
pace.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is pretty crazy. And so we have a fairly large team. Well, we went from like 6 people uh, less than 5 months ago. We have like 18 people now.
Oh my goodness. Hey, let me ask you
Yeah.
this. Why, so it's kind of a sidebar completely, but why St. Pete? Oh no, actually my question, let me start at this. So does this work, what you're doing, it's obviously focused on multifamily, but would it work for office leases as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are you applying
So
it to offices anywhere? Or it's just that's
no, we're so early. We're so early,
firehose,
Adam.
right? Yeah.
So um our vision, our view, and I'd love to hear feedback on it. So I'm a huge Elon fan. I'm a sort of an aspirational geek. I'm not that technical, but I'm an aspirational geek. Um, our view is not 10 years. it may not even be 5 years, is that mental AI, right? So that's Perplexity, GPT, Gemini, whatever, it will be capable of replacing a very large chunk of property management services, mental AI. And our view also is in the next 3 to 5 years, physical AI, particularly in the form of humanoid robots, right? Whether it is Unitree in China or Figure or Optimus from Tesla, we believe, for example, if you drive a Tesla 80 miles, it can recognize a deer. How hard is it to have a humanoid robot walk around, for example, my 13 building complex in South Tampa and pick up garbage or cut a lawn? It's not hard, right? And regulatory wise, we're private property. So as long as we don't scare the tenants, I would be able to deploy the bot, right? And if you're assuming 50 to 70,000 for full-time staff, whether it's garbage or maintenance, lawn care, well, even if Elon sold it for 200,000 per bot on 4 shifts, it's still economical. But Unitree just started mass producing, the Chinese humanoid company, they just start mass producing their product and they're selling for 16,000. And so we believe that the combination of mental AI and physical AI will essentially make property management services, like a vast majority of it, much more efficient. So we believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, a very good chunk of property management services, both mental and physical, can and will be replaced or be 10x, 50x in productivity by these services. And so HappiNest actually currently is working on just the mental side of it, the brand booster, the revenues rocket. But our longer term goal is to really be in a position to develop, let's say, a lawn cutting bot service that would then enable a human or robot to cut lawns.
That's
or
phenomenal.
a package delivery bot. Yeah. So I know it's a little crazy, but it really is not. The bots are already being used in factories, right? Yeah. So that's our bigger vision. And the idea is that we don't need to create all the services. For example, if somebody has a very good rent collection bot agent, once we have 1 million, 10 million doors using Revenues Rocket or Brand Booster, what we will do is just white label that top of the line agent and then basically then put it into our system so that we can then allow this agent to work with our services as long as we can share that data. Then the CTO is already starting to create kind of like custom GPTs. We would then create, with the data collected in the same place, we would then allow the stakeholders, tenants, property managers, owners, to custom create their own agents off that data. That's longer term. A little crazy, but I think that's where the market is going.
And you got to be crazy to be successful these days. You definitely got to think out of the box. So I can't believe how much time has gone by. Let's start wrapping up. I've got 3 final rapid fire questions for you. But
okay,
before I hit those, one last question about HappiNest. When we met last time, we were talking about HappiNest. You guys you've got a huge waiting list and you're raising money for HappiNest. Is that right? What's the status of HappiNest right now?
We're primarily founder funded right now, and then we have an advisory board which consists of some of the large customers we talked about, and those customers have asked to invest, so we've taken that strategic money. We also took some funding from Tom Bartley, who was the ex-chief marketing officer for Sears, and he left to start Google's retail marketing business. So he's actually helping us quite a bit with this revenues rocket. So we're closing maybe another couple 100,000 in a safe round, mainly from folks that can add value. And then we are in talks with a handful of VCs to do a 7-figure Series A sometime this year.
Well, good luck with that.
But we have revenues. Our founders are pretty successful. My CTO and CEO have exited companies themselves. And so with the revenues, our burn is very low. So it's less the money than, hey, hey, Tom, you're helping us with the marketing from Google. hey, Justin Dean, you're a client, you run a PMC, let us let's use you as a guinea pig and give us feedback. Some more of that. And then hopefully over the next few months, we grow fast enough to attract a top tier, either AI focus or prop tech focus venture capitalists to join us.
Having value add capital is always a good thing, particularly when you're starting out with a new venture like this. Let me ask you
I think so.
three sign-off questions, if I may. Rapid fire questions. First of all, back to real estate, bigger picture. Why should real estate investors and professionals be paying attention to AI today?
So I'm an older guy. I've done many sectors. I did 3 years of blockchain and crypto. I did a .com project. I did China. I actually did Asia. Um, if I just came back from the AI4 conference.
That's right.
And there's a lot of ex-crypto, ex.com or from.com people. I mean, these are real applications. Like we created HappiNest not because we're that smart, Adam. I created HappiNest because as an owner, I was so dissatisfied with the quality and the speed of the service that we use AI to do better. And then only after seeing that the product and the technology actually does work did we create a company, right? So we're hearing the story across the board. It's very different, for example, than the blockchain space where it's a bit more theoretical, but then where is the application? Here is actually folks like us that are actually using it and say, oh, maybe we can spin a company around it because there's so much demand for it. It's a little different. So it's exciting. So whether it's real estate or F&B space, healthcare, learn it, use it, or just fall behind, right?
That's exactly the point, isn't it? All right. So
Yeah.
how do you use AI on a daily basis? Are there any tools that you like to use kind of habitually? I know
Oh wow. I'm in love with Perplexity. So I Perplexity everything, including the voice. Sometimes GPT, I prefer the Perplexity. If I write a long email to my team, I have a collections, which is basically custom GPT. I would copy and paste that long email. I would put it into the Perplexity collections, and I always say rewrite this, and it would then be prompted to be rewritten in the mental pyramid format, which is a lot more efficient. Then I copy and paste that, and then obviously then we then send the email out or communications out. So I use it probably every 2 minutes for whatever it is I do.
exactly.
When I'm walking the dog, I'm doing voice and I'm learning. I'm talking to GPT voice. I'm talking to Perplexity voice and just asking questions. I did that today. I fired up Perplexity as I was walking my dog, Wasabi, and I said, "Tell me about Dr. Adam Gower." And I was just having conversation, right? And in that, I don't know, 7 minutes, I'm like, hey, we have some mutual
That's right. I
friends
told you
here,
everything
Adam,
you needed
right?
to know in 7 minutes. Sounds about right. That sounds long.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's really
So
interesting use.
I can't live without it. It's crazy. It's crazy amazing. Yeah. It's
That's
pretty, yeah, it's
fascinating.
very useful.
All right, last question. I think you already answered it with that question. But I like to ask my guests, all right, so for listeners, what do you recommend somebody does never touched AI or has some skepticism or is just, not really sure how to use it? Are there any easy wins? I mean, this idea of talking to Perplexity or to ChatGPT is brilliant. But any others that you
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
just give something really easy to do that's just like a wow result as when you try it the first time?
Well, I lost my executive assistant about 18 months ago. Her name is Lyra. In fact, she was with me for about 3 years in the Philippines full time. And she wanted to come to Canada and ended up sponsoring her on a student visa to come. She brought her family over. And so she's a full-time student and then she's working two jobs. So ultimately, she couldn't handle the work. And then she basically is now here, but no longer my EA. So I have not had an EA for 18 months. So very similar to HappiNest, like Brand Booster and others, I try to hire EAs, but it's just really difficult to find somebody like Lyra to replace. But I started just using different forms of AI, right? And so instead of, for example, if I have a question that might involve an EA that has some simple or basic research. Hey, where is the best parking spot according to this location with certain criteria? I would used to just use the EA and then wait half a day or 3 days if it's urgent. Now I don't. Like I'm actually surviving because I would say 80-90% of work that was done by the EA, including basic research, right? It's just right here, right? So
what tool particularly? Perplexity,
um
ChatGPT, anything?
I default to Perplexity a lot, but I use GPT as well. I mean, just as an example, I took my dog Wasabi to Vegas for AI for. Don't ask me why. My kids were overseas. I was dog sitting, so and they're all like overseas. So I brought the dog to Tampa, New York, and Vegas. From Vegas to Toronto, I needed to figure out based on the airline whether it's allowed. What's the price? How I register it. That's a classic EA
Task.
question, right? Hey, I'm flying, find out for me. And then you have to wait a little bit. They do the phone call. Right now, it took about 5 seconds and Perplexity gave me the answer, right?
Oh my goodness.
Right. So it really is, it's amazing that so I am surviving. I still prefer to bring in somebody to more high level tasks, but I don't know how I would survive without an EA, without AI these days.
Yeah. San Ng, co-founder, chairman of HappiNest, president of Skytian Capital, and author, and all kinds of other things. Thank you for joining me on the podcast.
This is fun. This is fun. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
All right, that was San Ng. What an interesting fellow. I am sure you would agree. I'm looking forward to staying in touch with you, San. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. And thank you, dear viewers, also for joining us today. If you've not signed up to our newsletter, go to easywin.ai and sign up. It's totally free. And you will get updates on what's going on in the real estate industry, impact of AI on the real estate industry, and a bunch of immediately actionable how-to training, absolutely free, that will dramatically increase your productivity and your effectiveness in business. All right, that's it. Thanks so much again, Sam, for joining me. Thank you, dear viewers, for joining me. And for this week, that's all I've got. Until next time, it's Adam Gower signing off.